Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's Western Area Planning Subcommittee meeting for the 2nd of September 25. Just before I start, I'll read out the normal chairman's introduction. I'm Councillor Jeffries and I'm chairing today's meeting. To my right are the planning officers Anthony Deavy and Keith Thompson. To my left are Jane Dale and Gemma Percy from Legal and Democratic Services. Also in the chamber are members of the committee and the public. Arrangements for dealing with the planning applications. An officer's summary and update will be given. Items involving members of the public will be dealt with first. Speakers are restricted to 3 minutes, so the warning when 30 seconds remain. Speakers are not permitted to circulate additional information, including photographs, plans, or petitions. Any councillor not on the committee who has requested to speak will also be given 3 minutes. Members are to note the information given by officers and speakers. Any decision proposed which is contrary to the recommendation contained in the report will require reasons if the proposal is due to refuse, and reasons and conditions if proposal is to approve the application. In accordance with the Council's equality policy, speakers are asked to refrain from making any comments which could be construed as being discriminatory or defamatory. Otherwise, it would be necessary to intervene. Additionally, I would request, although differing views may be expressed, people respect those differences. Please ensure mobile phones are switched to silent to avoid any disruption during the meeting. And also, whilst you are not speaking, can you put yourself on mute if you've not already done so? I should just check mine for a moment. Fire procedures. If the fire alarm sounds, attendees will be directed where to go following instructions given by officers. We'll now move on to the agenda. Agenda item number 1. Declarations of pecuniary, non-pecuniary and prejudicial interests and declarations under Section 4 of the Planning Code of Practice for dealing with planning applications. Members to declare any interests in items on the agenda and the nature of such interests. Are there any such declarations? Yes, Councillor Coltish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards agenda item number 4 and agenda item number 5, I know the applicant not particularly well. I know him through the rugby club when I used to play there many years ago. So that in no way affects my ability to make a unbiased decision. And I've had no contact with the applicant about this application.
Thank you. Councillor Whittle.
Thank you, Chairman. I have been advised I don't actually need to make a declaration on this, but for the purpose of transparency, regarding item 7, I am the chair of the Board of Governors of 2 maintained nursery schools with East Riding.
Thank you. Any other ones? Just for myself, that I have visited the site, the Watton site, but made no comments. And just the fact that Councillor Barbara Jeffries will be speaking in support of the applications, agenda items 5 and 4, and just to let you know that she's my wife, so, and a fellow councillor. Thank you. Agenda item number 2. To approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting of this subcommittee held on the 5th of August 2025, pages 1 to 4. All in favour? Thank you. To agenda item number 3. Any withdrawals at all?
There are no withdrawals, Chairman.
Thank you. So we'll move. Just what we're having to do today with the 2 applications for Waltons, which is agenda items 4 and 5. We're going to reverse the agenda item. Item number 5 will be heard first. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this application item number 5 is for the change of use of land, agricultural land, to form an extension of the existing vehicle parking area and a construction of a new vehicle access, including other associated development at land north of Parklands, South Park Road. There are no updates since the agenda was published, and the recommendation is to approve with the conditions as stated in the report. Thank you.
Thank you. We have two speakers today on this one. The first one is a Mr. A. Walton, the applicant. You are aware, Mr. Walton, we do agenda item 5 first, which is the lorry park. Can you just please turn your microphone, that long bar in the front? That's it.
Are we on now? Yeah, and this is, just to be clear, this is for the vehicle parking area and construction of a new vehicle access and private road, is that correct? Right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. The extension to the existing lorry park will create space required for safe manoeuvring and parking up of the lorries, while the new private access road further mitigates the risk to public safety on South Park Road. It goes hand in hand with the item agenda number 4, so I was expecting doing that one first, but thank you. That's all I've got to say on that one. Thank you.
Is that all? Is that you finished now, Mr. Walton, on that one? Right, thank you.
Yeah, it is on that.
Yeah, okay, thank you. The next one is Councillor Barbara Jeffries. As you're aware, you have 3 minutes, Mrs. Barbara Jeffries, with the 30-second warning.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you to councillors. Waltons are a long-established family firm and local employer of more than 20 people and operate many heavy vehicles. This lorry park application is welcomed, as at present they have to use a narrow track to gain access and exit their work site, which is also the same access to South Park, causing a build-up of traffic and a potential hazard for pedestrians also accessing and exiting South Park. Reversing their articulated vehicles into their present workshop causes safety concerns, and this application will resolve this issue. Over the years, as the park and Waltons have become busier, this has caused problems with vehicles and pedestrians entering the park. Plus, the exit from the site is on a blind bend leading from Swinefleet Road into the South Park entrance. This application is for private entrance for HGVs only and will serve to improve access to South Park in terms of safety issues. The application supports policy S4, which is supporting development and maintaining vibrancy in villages and the countryside. Policy EC1, encouraging growth for the East Riding economy. Part of this policy, Section D, supports development of an appropriate scale to create a new vehicle access and parking facilities for articulated vehicles. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any, yes, Councillor Coltish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I mean, Councillor Jeffries summed it up really well there. There's no contentious parts to this application. It supports a local business who employs local people, and there are no objections. So I'm happy to propose approval in line with officers' recommendations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor.
And just in line with what Councillor Coltish has said, I'm prepared to second that proposal.
Any other councillors wishing to speak on this one? No? All right, well, there was obviously with a proposal from Councillor Coltish for approval, seconded by Councillor Hopton. All those in favour?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So unanimous.
Thank you. So that one, the application is recommended for approval with the conditions set out in the report. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So now we'll go back to agenda item number 4.
Yeah, through you, Chairman. Yes, item 4, this is an application for the erection of an industrial building to be used as heavy goods repair and servicing area at the same site that you've just heard, Hitchwalton at South Park Road in Goal. The application is recommended for refusal as set out in the report, and there are no updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Mr. Walton, if you'd like to, I'll be 3 minutes again with the 30-second warning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. H. Waltons, as you know, was established back in the early 1920s based in Old Gull. The onerous restrictions imposed by the Level 2 Strategic Flood Risk Assessment for Gull are noted. If the proposal was a less vulnerable industrial building within the rapid inundation zone and an extension to an existing industrial building that had a maximum external footprint of 250 square metres, this would be permitted. This proposal is detached and has a maximum external footprint of 312 square metres, which is 62 square metres larger. There does not appear to be any logical reasoning as to why a restriction of this magnitude should be applied to a detached industrial building on an established site. The gov.uk flood risk summary for Old Gull states the risk of flooding from rivers or sea is very low to low with intact defences. The proposal will not increase flood risk on site or the surrounding areas, and in the event of an emergency evacuation, our own early warning systems will be activated. The proposed building will not be used for habitable purposes, will not be occupied overnight, will be used as an industrial workshop with 3 to 4 staff working day shifts, has a small external footprint, is sited near a place of elevated safety. We are a local business generally employing local people. 48 of us live in the Goole area. 11 of these live in Old Gull, so they either walk or bike to work. We are trying to expand, which would allow further employment opportunities. Our current vehicle workshop was built approximately 50 years ago when Hugh Walton had 2 lorries and 1 part-time mechanic. It still has the same footprint and entrance off South Park Road. We now have a total of 30 vehicles plus 16 trailers, all requiring regular maintenance and repairs on site by our own qualified mechanics, but this is not always possible due to the workshop capacity. Currently, we cannot close the workshop doors with a unit and trailer over the pit due to the length of the vehicle. In winter, this makes working conditions very cold. Heaters are installed, but heat is lost through the open doors, resulting in wasted energy and costs. All vehicles reverse into the workshop off South Park Road about 5 metres from the park entrance, where families with children of all ages access the park on foot or by car, creating major concerns over public safety. To maintain the future sustainability of our business, we desperately require the new vehicle workshop insulated and with solar panels to reduce energy costs, large enough to carry out maintenance and repairs to our own vehicles in a safe working environment. This does not pose any greater risk to human life from flooding, as we are just moving the same number of staff to a safer place within our yard. The most suitable location is on existing hard standing within our security boundary fence, screened by existing trees, and most importantly, this mitigates the risk to public safety by moving the workshop away from the public South Park entrance, frequently used by children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walton. Thank you very much indeed. And the next speaker is Councillor Barbara Jeffries.
Thank you, Chair. This application is for H. Walton Limited for new service and repair workshop, as the old one is no longer fit for purpose, and will allow 2 HGVs with trailers to be serviced at the same time, plus the installation of a brake tester. The additional safe working space for the appointment of an apprentice to work alongside the 3 existing mechanics is also possible. H. Walton Limited is an old and established company of 50 years plus, dealing in animal foodstuffs. The company employs 19 drivers, 2 fitters and 6 office staff, and has an operator's license for 21 vehicles. The company is intending, with this expansion, to employ 1 apprentice fitter. The policies that support this application are the following. Policy S1, presumption in favour of sustainable development. Policy S4, supporting development in villages and the countryside. Policy EC1, supporting the East Riding economy. Policy EC2, encouraging growth and diversification of the rural economy. Policy ENV1, integrating high quality design. Regarding the SFRA, I wish to make clear to the committee that the building will not be used for habitable purposes. Secondly, it will not be occupied overnight and will only be used as an industrial workshop. Further, it is sited near a place of elevated safety. I would ask the committee to consider the application favourably. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Any councillors?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this gives us an excellent opportunity to see where investment's being made in a local business that's been there for some substantial time. And it looks like they're taking an investment there to make that sustainable for the future. So with the examples of the safety systems and alarm put in place, I think that we would be very foolish to do anything other than approve this application. It seems a very sound application. Thank you.
Councillor Coltish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't think there was a proposal, so I agree with that, and I'll propose approval for the reason. Did you propose? Sorry.
Yeah, I will propose it. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I will propose it. I use the word approval, and
Okay.
they ought to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If that's a formal proposal for approval, I'll second that, Mr. Chairman, because it provides, as Councillor Jeffries once again summed up, jobs, local jobs. It meets our policy requirements in terms of development, supporting the local economy, and all of those benefits outweigh the risk. And in my view, that risk is not only nonsense, but extremely, extremely low, considering even if there were to be a flood, it's very unlikely that those people couldn't evacuate given the system, and that there's no nighttime living, there's no beds in a workshop, and it improves a very successful local business. So to sum up, those benefits outweigh the risks. So I'm happy to second that proposal for approval.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. You've got one or two people waving at you. I'm sort of very positive about this application. It's clearly clear that there's local support for it and that the company is well regarded and also providing gainful employment for local people, which I think is all very positive. I don't have a negative other than just a question really for the officers. I can understand why the officers are recommending refusal in strict terms of planning rules in relation to flood zones, but the practical issues here are relatively low. There's no risk. There's probably there's no harm done, as has been said. There isn't any loss or potential loss of life or anything because there won't be anybody living there. But I'm just wanting to quiz the officers really, is that from a practical point of view, accepting that in the strict terms you had to make a recommendation for refusal, but we need to make sure that we're clear on our planning policies here. And I just want to ask the officer in question why that balance, because it is a balance, has not been brought into this conclusion that has been reached, because I was surprised to see, frankly, that this was put down for refusal. So I just really want to understand what harm would be done if this was to go through, if any.
Thank you, Councillor, through you, Chairman. Yeah, the report is written in a balanced guise. There's actually a paragraph about planning balance 6.40. Yeah, members here will be aware of the rapid inundation zone, where it is fatal for certain types of development, and it's not usually to do with people living at the property, it's to do with property itself. So clearly in this instance, spending X amount of money to construct the property, that's a threat to the property itself. So doesn't necessarily have to be completely reflective of somebody living at the property. It can be land and buildings. And that's why the rapid inundation zone is fatal in that regard. The one previously for change of use, again, you didn't have the restrictions there because there's no new buildings. That's the difference. For many applications that we bring to committee, we give more weight to the flood risk policy because it's such a high level of threat to land and property and also buildings. And in this case, the creation of an additional job and the small economic benefits which are there, we've given more weight to the flood risk element. And clearly members can come to a different view on that, but that's the way we've set it out in the report. Thank you,
Can
Chairman.
I just ask Chair just to say, but there's no risk to property other than that of the applicant, I don't believe. So in other words, this is purely a protection issue with regards to property on the actual applicant's site, correct?
Through you, Chairman. Yeah, there's no neighbouring property, so it's likely a threat to this particular business. The rest of the surrounding land is farmland and recreational.
Fine, thank you.
Councillor Wilkinson. My apologies.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I had to look at this in a view, and I absolutely understand the officer's views and why that was made. This isn't an existing business with an excellent future. It currently has a workshop, so therefore it's not that there isn't a risk, it's that there isn't any further risk. There's not any extra risk by putting up this shed because they're not bringing on extra vehicles and extra people. This is just to make it work better. It's just a covered existing hard standing, so it's the same vehicles, same place, same conditions, same everything. There is no extra risk. It complies with, and I think the ward councillor, Councillor Jeffries explained very well, the amount of conditions this complies with is phenomenal. It applies with just about everything other than one, which is the strategic risk assessment. And I understand that, therefore I understand why officers have taken a balanced view that given the comments that they recommend refusal. However, my balance is that it exceeds that because it hasn't increased risk to anybody. And other than, I think we should put conditions in place if we go down the route of approving this to ensure that there isn't any people living in it at any one time, that it doesn't change, and the officers no doubt will be able to advise on what conditions would be needed, but quite happy to suggest some, if not. Therefore, I will be supporting this and given my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm listening to what everyone said. It seems perfectly logical that this should be approved. The only question I have is, if we do approve this, is this going to be shuffled to strategic, or can we just do this on the spot?
Through you, Chairman. Yeah, this is an application we've considered to be not of significant relevance to refer to strategic.
Well, in that case, I would like to also support approval of this. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, Councillor Whittle.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm completely relaxed about this, if for no other reason than it's a triumph for common sense. When you look at it, as Councillor Wilkinson said, even if you refuse it, the assumed flood risk won't go away. So you'll have those people still in exactly the same circumstances, whereby they're going to be rapidly inundated if that time should come. And therefore, it seems, to my mind, a little nonsensical to refuse it when you won't actually improve the situation by doing so. Whereas if we approve it, which I would strongly endorse, if we were to improve it, then you're looking at improved working conditions, you're looking at an improvement in terms of energy saving through being able to actually close the doors. So, like I said, I'm completely relaxed about this and would happily approve.
Thank you. Anybody, any other councillor, anything to say at all?
Yeah, through you, Chairman. Yeah, there's been reference to conditions if members resolve to approve the application. There is a few standard ones, for example, time limits. There's a couple of conditions that Highways recommended. So one is about not having an access from South Park Road. And the other one, which is obviously more important, I think, which is about this development not being either used or first brought into use until the access that was approved previously is first constructed, which I think is a very important condition that members should consider. We obviously have flood risk recommendations. Although the EA never commented on the FRA, I've just looked through here very quickly some of the recommendations, and it does cover that the building is not used for habitable purposes, for example, no overnight use. So I can put a condition that wraps that up, which I think is reasonable and necessary. And then we have a standard condition for materials, and then lastly for approved plans. That would be my suggested conditions, Chairman.
Right, we'll go to the vote, but obviously,
Sorry. Just if you don't mind if you intervene. Councillor Needham obviously proposed this, but we don't have any reasons from yourself. We have them from Councillor Coltish. And in relation to conditions, I just wonder whether you could clarify that you're happy with that or propose your conditions and reasons. Thank
yes,
you.
Councillor, was that about the conditions that have been recommended? Obviously, because
I'm happy with those conditions that have been recommended on the basis that, yes, we're not using this as dwelling overnight. I think the business development and revenue generation, job creation outweighs any potential risk there.
Councillor Wilkinson, you wanted to say something?
Sorry, I was just going to just confirm with officers because you went through a list. The opening times would be presumably to match the current opening times.
We've got no concerns about operating hours. We've got no reason. There's no residential properties nearby. We don't think there's any harm as a result of this new building. So we don't think it's reasonable or necessary to do that.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm we're okay with that.
Councillor Coltish, you wanted to say
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As seconder, I agree with all of those conditions, but I'd just like to add, for legal's purpose, I suppose, the last sentence in 6.4.1 says basically that there's limited benefits and significant flood risk. In my view, that the officers have got that the other way round. I think it's significant benefits and a limited flood risk.
Any other councillors want to say? Right. Well, we've had a proposal then from Councillor Needham, seconded by Councillor Coltish, for approval with the conditions set out and the conditions that Councillor Needham is happy with on his proposal. So we'll go to the vote. All those in favour of approval of this application?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Unanimous.
Right. Well, that application has been approved, Mr. Walton, also along with the Lorry Park agenda item number 5, but they've been set out with the approvals put there by the officers that you have to comply with. But thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Apologies for the delay. We've lost a Wi-Fi connection. I do apologise. We'll just take a break for 5 minutes while we sort this this problem out that we've got. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, good afternoon again, and sorry for the delay. Right, we'll now move on to agenda item number 6.
Thank you, Chairman. This is an application for planning permission for the change of use from a dwelling to a children's nursery, the construction of a 2.4 metre high acoustic fence to part of the rear and side boundary, and the partial removal of boundary walls to improve access at 19 Main Street in Willoughby. The officer recommendation is approval, and I have one update for you, Mr. Chairman. Since the report for the application was printed, we've received 2 further objections from the resident of number 1 Apple Tree Mews. I can summarise the points raised for you as follows. Apple Tree Mews is a shared residential driveway and subject to easements, and using it for commercial or business use could be problematic. Permission will be required from all parties involved for its use, which will not be given. It could be considered a breach of the shared access agreement, which will negatively impact on other residents using the driveway. Legal action could be taken if use is deemed a nuisance or a breach of their access agreement. The deed document for number 1 Apple Tree Mews states that a full and free right of way at all times is required for all purposes over the road edged in blue. The blue edging is for the whole of Apple Tree Mews from Main Street to the very top. The neighbour considers the acoustic fence still falls short near number 2 Apple Tree Mews, which could mean it's ineffective. They have great concerns over the volume of traffic at the bottom of the driveway. Concerns over the increase in traffic exiting onto Main Street, which could cause an accident. If a child ran onto the road, it could be very serious. This type of business they consider should be located in a quiet area, not on a busy Main Street. A business generally cannot use a residential in and out driveway as its designated exit. Businesses should use their own designated entrance and exit points to avoid legal issues. This should also avoid a conflict on the residential driveway, and they consider that shared / business and residential accesses would clearly be at odds with each other. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Just on that point then about the legal side of it, whether that as a committee to decide on this application, does it have any bearing on what we decide?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The points raised in respect of legal rights of access over land are not material planning considerations. The other points raised in terms of traffic generation, parking, safety are covered in the report, and as officers we're satisfied that the accesses are suitable and could operate safely. Thank you, Chairman.
Very much. Right, our first speaker on this one today is a Mr. Kay Leighton, objector. Is Mr. Leighton there? Oh, is it? Sorry, Mrs. Cayley, I do apologise. Sorry. You have 3 minutes, Mrs. Leighton, with a 30-second warning.
Yep, is that okay? Okay. Good afternoon. I'm speaking on behalf of the surrounding residents to strongly oppose the proposal to convert a 3-bedroom home into a 4-day nursery. Although the area has some retail and commercial businesses, it is largely a residential area, and while the Highways report deems the proposal acceptable, we feel it overlooks some issues. The nursery's planned in access is adjacent to Crescent Court. The out access is onto Apple Tree Mews, our only access in and out of our home, which is a private block paved driveway meant for just 3 homes. Using it for vehicles and foot traffic created by dropping off and collecting 44 children plus staff and visitors would compromise our right of way and create daily conflict. Highways also suggest 2-way traffic would be achieved by moving part of a wall of 19 Main Street where it joins Apple Tree Mews. But in reality, the bend of Apple Tree Mews and nearby parking on Main Street makes this impractical, especially given the plan shows a very large overgrown tree to remain. Main Street is obviously busy at certain times of day already with school traffic for nearby primary and secondary schools. Noise is another major concern for all of us. The nursery includes a free-flowing outdoor play area, yet the proposed acoustic fence only covers 1 of the 5 properties directly affected. It excludes most of 2 Apple Tree Mews and all 3 Crescent Court apartments. Our bedroom, study and kitchen face onto the nursery site, and the noise will impact directly onto our living conditions. The pre-planning inquiry implies that local residents' gardens are facing away from the nursery site, but in truth, the garden of 1 Apple Tree Mews wraps around the property with the patio near the nursery, and the courtyard for Crescent Court, where residents sit out, is to the side of the proposed nursery garden. Apple Tree Mews homes both have windows that directly overlook the nursery garden. Residents on Oakland Drives whose homes sit at a higher elevated position have also expressed concerns about the sound travelling up to them. Part of the reason for not continuing a fence appears to be an outbuilding put by the previous owner that isn't even safe to be near a nursery. Photos are available online under public comments of that construction. Finally, I'd like to remind the committee that a previous application to build 2 homes on this same site was refused by this very committee in 2024 due to the constrained nature of the site and the awkward arrangement of the private drive of Appletree Mews, and noted that the intensification of its use would have an adverse impact. Yet now a nursery for 44 children plus staff and visitors is being considered.
You have
That's a
30
significant
seconds left.
intensification of traffic on a private residential driveway over what was previously refused. We respectfully ask that you refuse this application due to the impact on surrounding residents from noise created from an outdoor play area, and to those on Appletree Mews of traffic from a business using a driveway only intended for residential use. If minded to approve, the residents of Appletree Mews and Crescent Court would welcome you to conduct a site visit to fully understand the impact on our community. Thank you for listening, but if you need anything clarifying, I can.
Thank you, Mrs. Leighton. Thank you. The next we have is Mr. D. Jennings, applicant's agent. Three minutes, Mr. Jennings, with a 30-second warning. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This proposal to relocate is to relocate an existing nursery in Willoughby where the lease is coming to an end in order to provide continued service to the existing community. Where better than a very accessible location in the heart of the village centre? The comprehensive officer report sets out clearly the proposal, the policies involved, the relevant issues and how they have been dealt with. It concludes that the development is acceptable. As with most planning applications, you're invariably being asked to adjudicate on change, and there's national and local planning policies and professional officer advice to help you do that and manage that change. These are our guiding parameters as well as applicants and agents. To refuse a proposal simply because it involves change is unreasonable. So in order to help us, the council has set up a process to assess that change. Firstly, it promotes pre-application consultations. Secondly, advice is given highlighting those issues that need to be addressed. Thirdly, if they can be dealt with, submit a planning application. In so doing, unnecessary, expensive and time-consuming appeals are avoided. This is just a process we have followed: a pre-application consultation, a thorough response accepting the principle, but identifying that noise and highway safety needed further investigation. Consultants were instructed, done at no small cost, but acknowledging that the proposed use will need to fit in with the local area. So after all this work has been done, you have before you a detailed report that carefully assesses the proposal and concludes that the children's nursery will not cause harm to neighbouring residential amenity or safety problems in the public highway. This is no surprise given the proposed operation of the use. Many of the children are very young and spend part of the day upstairs asleep. In the small area immediately behind the building, set at a lower level and enclosed by a fence, will be an area where older children can engage in free play. The rest of the garden and the outbuildings will be used by children involved in supervised educational activities such as gardening and looking after small animals in the outbuildings. The whole garden will be enclosed by a tall boundary acoustic fence. And I note what the objector said, and it could be extended if those sheds are not acceptable as a barrier. Parking provision meets standards, and there will be a controlled dropping up point as well as a meet and greet arrangement to the front. So based on the evidence presented, both the principle and
You have
detail
30 seconds left.
are policy compliant. Safeguards regarding noise with the acoustic fence surrounding the garden boundaries and highways are built in and are being controlled by suggested conditions. Operating hours, construction of the acoustic fence, construction of the altered access and display of suitable signage. The level of detail and control involved in this change is high, and therefore I ask you to grant planning permission this afternoon, subject to conditions. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jennings. The next person to speak on this one is Councillor Gary McMaster.
Good afternoon, members and officers. I address you today with very mixed feelings. Both the applicant and the objectors are my constituents, which makes this very, very difficult for me. The proposal is for a nursery for 44 children, up to 44 children, off Main Street in Willoughby. the applicant, I've said the applicants are my constituents, forgive me. The applicant's already running a nursery in Willoughby, which, as you've heard, have been given notice to vacate. So their contract is coming to an end. However, this proposed premises is simply a large 3-bedroom house. Is it really right to put a nursery of up to 44 children in a potentially a 3-bedroom house? Main Street is a very busy road, and parents entering and leaving will need to contend with very heavy traffic on what is a very busy road with a tight entrance and even tighter exit. The proposed plan shows a one-way system in and out of the nursery. However, the proposed nursery exit via Appletree Mews is also the only entrance for the residents to Appletree Mews. So therefore, it's not a one-way system. There's traffic coming in and out in the very tight exit. Appletree Mews is narrow and has a bend right on the exit where the proposed nursery exits, which is already dangerous. But not only that, it's literally a car's length away from Main Street. Not long back, an application was submitted on this very same site for 2 dwellings. And that was turned down on highways and design grounds. I submit, if the previous proposal for just 2 dwellings was not suitable and refused, how can this proposal, which is significantly bigger, be acceptable? Whilst much needed, I feel a day nursery at this very small site is too much and too big an impact on the existing residents, as well as a very busy road. I urge this committee to refuse this application today, or at the very least, if you're mindful to consider it, please consider a site visit before making a decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor McAllister. Right, I'll go to Lionel. I'll start this. Councillor Colfish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My initial feelings, Mr. Chairman, are that officers have got this right, and I think that's because it's of high quality design. And I think the question was posed whether this is a suitable setting for children in a nursery. I think it is. I think it's really important that nurseries in particular, but maybe also schools, are a part of the community, in the heart of the community. I don't think it's appropriate for children to be nestled away on an industrial estate or on a quiet part. I think this is the typical setting for a nursery. And if you look at all of the nurseries in Goole, including the one my daughter attends, they're all in on a residential street similar to this one. And I think lots of the residents enjoy having children about and enjoy having that important part of the community on their doorstep, as it were. The applicant made an important point about the nature of children of this age. They do have naps, that they can't go outside by themselves, and they make too much noise. And unfortunately, British weather isn't known for being too nice all the time, so they're not often outside a lot of the time because of strict rules about children playing outside and how that works. On the contrary, unfortunately, for right or for wrong, we can't consider the right of way issue. But I think that the noise issue for me is it does exist. There will be an impact on noise. I don't think it's an impact big enough to warrant refusal. But I am interested in the issues around traffic, especially considering Councillor McMaster said that a previous application was refused on traffic grounds. So I'd like to hear what fellow councillors' views are on that. So I'll keep an open mind, but I am leaning towards approval, Mr. Chairman. So I'm not prepared to make any proposals at this stage.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question with regards to the exit arrangement from the site. Obviously, Councillor McMaster has indicated that you've got 2-way traffic there, and obviously you've got an ingress to the 2 properties in Appleton Mews. Can I just check what signage will be? I mean, obviously, for those people coming out, they're going to be in a hurry. They will have dropped their children off. They're going to be moving out, presumably to go to work or whatever they normally do. And I've got a bit of a concern, I think, about how that would be addressed, because if there's good signage on the road and it's obviously clear that it's wide enough for 2-way traffic, what I need to sort of just check if that's possible is exactly how that's going to be signed to ensure that you don't, in effect, get inadvertent people sort of not paying attention and ploughing into each other on the exit. So could I just have some, and if needed, I'd like to perhaps consider a condition to ensure that that is properly signed and shown on the road to keep to the left on both occasions.
Through you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, we do have details of the proposed signage. It's your typical in-out highway type signs. I haven't included those in the papers in the interest of trying to keep them as brief as possible, but we do have a condition. We have a copy of the plans which will form part of the decision. They're listed in the approved plans in condition 9, sign face and foundation details and sign location plan. And we have a condition number 7, use of the building shall not commence until the entrance and exit signage and associated markings have been erected and displayed in full accordance with the approved plans. So I feel like that is suitably covered. Highways have looked at the suitability of those details and confirmed the signs are acceptable. Like I say, it's typical in signage on the main road entrance, Main Street entrance, and out signage on the Appletree Mews entrance facing outwards. So, oncoming traffic can see that.
Yeah, I'm just particularly, if I may, Chair, just regarding the signage, I understand the in and out is clearly signed, but it's the actual signage on the exit and those on the road, so that people, because obviously the residents of Appleton Mews will have been used to basically having the whole road to themselves. What we need to do, I think, is to ensure that there is a keep left sign on both sides, so that obviously that's got to be very clear, because otherwise, as I said, people will have just started their journey or just finishing their journey, depending what they're doing. And it's a recipe, I think, for possibly having some issues. It's the signage, not the in-out signage, but the signage on the road itself, to ensure that there's basically shown to be two-way traffic. That's the bit that I'm not sure about.
Through you again, Mr. Chairman. The Appletree Mews is a private drive, so the Highway Authority doesn't have any jurisdiction. The applicant could, in connection with their in and out signage, display, give priority to oncoming vehicles type signs, so that a vehicle entering Appletree Mews to leave the site gives way to vehicles coming down the track, down the drive. That's not been identified as necessary. You would not pull out onto the drive without checking left and right to make sure there isn't a vehicle approaching on Appletree Mews. So it's not been identified as necessary. The applicant could consider whether it would be a suitable thing to do in the interests of good neighbourliness. But
the next one we've got is Councillor Whittle. Okay.
Oh, thank you, Chairman. You brought me in earlier than I expected, so I was... Right, Chairman. Overall, I'm quite happy about this application. There are a few areas which have been discussed already, one of which obviously is the traffic matters. But in our own report, it says Appletree Mews is of sufficient width to accommodate two-way traffic movements, serving both vehicles exiting the proposed day nursery and those accessing the two residential properties. So I'm fairly relaxed about Appletree Mews. With regard to Main Street, there is a 20-mile-an-hour parking speed limit on that, which hopefully would alleviate the concerns about speeding traffic. I'm intrigued by the electronic appointment system, whereby I assume that this will reduce the numbers of vehicles actually queuing to enter the premises. And isn't it nice to have technology working to the benefit of us all, rather than as so often appears to be the opposite? I'm not going to go into the wider thing regarding nursery schools and PVRs themselves, because obviously that's not a planning matter, but there is going to be an increased need for these placements, and this will go some way to addressing that, as well as removing, as Councillor Coulter said, removing it from the industrial estate, because this is obviously far better within the community. With regard to the dwelling itself or the building itself, it is a big building from what I can see. I've known in the past, when I was young, a school which was for, I think it was about 60, 70 children in an very old farmhouse, which was not so very much bigger than that premise. So I'm relatively relaxed about that. Something which I don't suppose is within our remit is the internal arrangements. I'm just a little bit concerned about toilet facilities, because when you've got 20 babies and another 24 happy little children running around, we appear to have a WC upstairs and a bathroom downstairs, with the WC. And I'm concerned that that might not actually be sufficient, but I'm not sure if that's within our remit as a planning committee. Anthony is shaking his head at me sadly, so that's obviously not, so I've wasted my time burbling about that. But I would suggest, can we have an informative to ensure that full sanitary arrangements are permissible within the area?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I mean, as a planning authority, we'll deal with the use of land and buildings. There is other regulatory systems in place, other legislation to deal with facilities at a day nursery and regulations they have to comply with, and the applicant running an existing nursery setting in Willoughby, I'm sure will be fully aware of their requirements in terms of the regulations they need to provide for toilet facilities and waste disposal, etc.
I would hope so. Councillor Coltridge has just muttered at me about nappy changing as well, which of course is very appropriate. But to sum up, Chairman, whilst I do appreciate the concerns about traffic, I think they have been mitigated. With concerns about the suitability of the building itself, I'm happy with that. And I'm afraid I'm verging very near to proposing approval. In fact, I think I shall. I propose approval, Chairman.
So is that a definite proposal or just a thinking? Right, thank you. Next we have Councillor Hopton.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I remember this application last year, albeit I was missing for the second meeting and the site visit, unfortunately. But I remember visiting the area, and I know this street quite well, not being that far away from where I live. A regular visitor to Willoughby, etc. So it is. I mean, the issues we had last year, which was where, from the minutes, is resolved that the application be refused on the grounds that constrained nature of the site and awkward arrangement of the private drive and the parking area to the rear of the plot, and about 2 dwellings. Now, if I'm remembering rightly, I haven't actually gone and looked at the previous application, but I think that was for 2 houses being built in the garden. Those of you might remember that, yeah, and therefore then the full access was going down Apple Tree Mews, where this is just driving in at the top, and you know, there's been concern about the 2-way traffic. I mean, that is pretty short distance that there's going to be 2-way traffic on this. You know, the entrance is quite wide, and obviously, while it is a private drive, obviously this property has clearly got permitted access over there. Based on, you know, the pictures that we've got on the plans and everything. So I'm not quite sure I could support a refusal on that basis. I mean, it is busy around there. I mean, you know, if you ever try and go around there and you can't find a parking space, it is a bit of a nightmare. I've got to say that whatever little road is that's dead opposite is, you know, don't go and try and find a parking space down there, because it's a nightmare. You'll probably struggle to turn around and come out. But it does feel like all the right boxes have been ticked. I'm not quite sure I'm necessarily ready to second the motion, the proposal by Councillor Whittle. But you know, I think 2 houses were going to be built on that back garden, I think, and loads more. You know, and this seems like a lot better scheme than what we saw last year. Something's got to happen with this house. You know, it's obviously been. I'm thinking it's empty and being a bit dilapidated for a while or whatever. Apologies if it's not to any owner, but I think that's where it's at. And yeah, I'm struggling to find anything wrong with it really. So.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I'd just clarify the history for the site. So the scheme that we're referring to last year on that plan, if you can see the bit of the building that sticks down southwards, that's an attached garage. The previous scheme was to demolish that garage and then effectively cut the site in half and build 2 properties in line with number 19 in the side garden. Their access and parking was down Apple Tree Mews and then with a shared kind of parking court at the back. That application was recommended for approval by officers, but was overturned at this committee because of concerns about they felt that the site was cramped and that the parking wasn't particularly typical of the access and parking wasn't particularly typical of the sort of the layout and type of development in the area. And at that point, Apple Tree Mews does narrow to almost a single width, and there were concerns, I remember from the site visit, we were talking about delivery vehicles, home food deliveries coming down there, meeting an oncoming car and having to reverse back onto the road. Obviously, we're talking about a different type and scale of development now with a different access arrangement. So we have had regard to the planning history in making this recommendation, but feel that the access proposals are fundamentally different, and that this can operate safely in terms of highway safety. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. The next person, is Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Chair. There's not a great deal to add, but there's a couple of points. So with regard to traffic, I think another key thing to remember is the nursery is not like a school wherein there is a tight 30 minutes to get everyone in and out. And as someone whose own schedule with my 2 kids is sporadic at best, it's a lot flatter in that bell curve. It's over the course of 2 hours, which is why I think, again, this scheme wouldn't cause the issues that people may think in terms of if it was a school or something to that effect. And really then just to kind of reiterate what Councillor Coulter said with regard to sound, the kids are not outside that often, and for the most part, they are happy, joyful sounds that as someone who in my early 20s lived next door to a nursery, it wasn't distressing, it wasn't even annoying. If anything, it was quite a nice way to wake up in the morning, although that's not the point of this. So again, I mean, I'd be moved to second the approval by Councillor Whittle.
Councillor Casson was next. Oh, okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to make a late declaration of interest that I know the applicant agent, Mr. Jennings. I work with him at a parish council level. I just thought I'd do that for clarity. And I also support Councillor Whittle on this as well for a positive result. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next one was Councillor Robson.
It's all been said. Thank you, Chair.
That's a me. That makes a
I'm
change for
too
you.
late.
Oh.
Okay.
Right, thank you. It was Councillor Wilkinson, you were next.
Yes, thank you. I wasn't going to say anything because everything's been said, so I won't go into any of that. I was just looking, the only bit of concern that was discussed that I had was on the traffic issue of Apple Tree Mews. And I understand we've basically widened that, but I do have a minor concern is that when people see an in and out and they come on the in, and as they're leaving to go on the out, they probably don't even have any idea that they should look right. And so I just thought as an advisory, if the officers could do it, it might be an advantage, as we've got the agent here, is to suggest that on the bit that's actually from the property going onto Apple Tree Mews, not the one going onto the main road, that they have a sign that says, look right. And that will solve any of the issues. Just an advisory, because we've got no jurisdiction to say that. But thank you.
Yeah, we can put on whatever advisory notes the committee feel are necessary. Obviously, you need to understand that they don't bite like a planning condition. But yeah, if we feel an advisory note regarding look right, give way to oncoming traffic is suitable, then we can put that on the notice of decision. That's not a problem.
The next one was Councillor Boville. When you wanted to speak, Councillor Boville.
Right, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think the idea of having a fairly centrally located nursery to serve the people of Willoughby and the surrounding area is generally a good idea. However, as it's already been mentioned, Main Street is a busy road. Main Street is a mixture of residential and commercial properties, and there's quite a lot of parking restrictions in force in order to keep the traffic flowing. My concern is really for the residents of Apple Tree Mews and Crescent Court and the effect it's going to have on their amenity if this goes ahead. It's a difficult application. I'm very much torn between it. I think the idea that's already been mentioned, that there will be staggered start times for the children is a mitigating factor, which is good. Because if it was like if you had fixed finish times, I would be particularly concerned. Yeah, I've heard all the arguments have been said, and I'm still pretty much in two minds about this one. It's mainly because of the nature of Main Street. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Boville. Right, well, we've had a proposal from Councillor Whittle for approval, seconded by Councillor Harrison. I think we've all had a pretty good discussion about the merits or the objections as such. We'll move straight to the vote. So we'll say is all those in favour of approval with offers are recommended with the approval with conditions set out in the report.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Those against?
One.
Mr. Bovill. And oh, sorry, I thought my microphone was on. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. The next one we've got now is agenda item number 7.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is item number 6. For the erection of a stable block on land at Barnby Moor, Asleby. Since the publication of the agenda, there's been one further update from Councillor Howard, which doesn't raise any new issues, but basically repeats the comments on page 39 at the top that was received from Asleby Parish Council. So I'll just briefly mention those, that the development's not in keeping with the countryside. Reference to the land being grey belt, which it's not, because we don't have any green belt in the East Riding. And issues concerning that the land isn't large enough to sustain 2 horses. The end. Thank you, Chairman.
We'll have no speakers on this application, so I'll move straight to the council. Anybody from the Councillor Coltish?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know Asleby fairly well, being local to it. It's one of those places for members that don't know, that you probably don't even know it exists unless you've had a reason to go there, and there's very few reasons to go there unless you live there. It's very much typical East Riding rural village, and therefore I think it's appropriate to have a stable that houses horses in a very typical rural setting. So I'll propose approval in line with officers' recommendations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I think it was Councillor Hopton was next, actually.
Yeah, I'd like to just hear 1 or 2 other thoughts before sort of going straight to seconding and approval. But it does strike me that I'm slightly struggling with the objections that we've got farmland with a stable block being approved on it. I in my world, sort of go together. Are we just losing a stable block where I live and it's been turned into a shop and a cafe? But this is a new stable block on agricultural land. I'm almost surprised it's here. A lot of these things you can sort of get it done with agricultural permissions and things. So anyway, I'm struggling to see why it's here, shall we say?
But Councillor Wilkinson was next.
Thank you. I think Councillor Hopton actually said what I was going to say, which is I am struggling with the objections. I mean, stables, horses in a farm and in community, it's away from the village, even though the village is quite small, but it's away from that. It says numerous travels to the site and concerns for highway safety. They're going to be looking at horses, and I am struggling with this. I absolutely think that the officers are correct in their recommendation for approval, and I can't remember if Councillor Hopton seconded it. I will second it for approval. Thank you.
Next was Councillor Whittle.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought I'd make the most of my time here in Western Area because I very rarely come and speak to you. Yeah, with this, all you have to do is read through the report. It's a modest, stable building, respects the intrinsic character of the area. It's been amended so as after officer concerns, gable end face and highway. Modest proportions would not over-dominate the site without constituting overdevelopment, sympathetic impact. Says it all really, Chairman. I'm more than happy to approve this.
Thank you. Councillor Harrison, you wanted to speak?
Nothing to add. Countryside, horses, nice building. I'll be approving it.
Right, thank you. Any other councillors wishing to make comments? No? Right, so we've got a proposal for approval from councillor Coltish, seconded by councillor Wilkinson. So we'll move to the vote. All those in favour of approval?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Unanimous.
Thank you very much. So that application is recommended for approval with the conditions set out in the report. Thank you very much indeed. Right, councillors, we'll now move on to appeals, of which we have got a few.
Thank you, Chairman. Appeal 8A relates to two appeals, a planning appeal and a listed building consent appeal at Tranby Court, Kirkella. Tranby Court is the school and the associated stable block, which has a water tower attached. The application was to install telecommunications equipment on the listed water tower. We refused the application under Officer Delegated Powers on the basis of the impact on the listed build. There's two elements to listed building. There's a stable block with water tower, and then there's the actual listed building, which has been converted into the school. We refused it only on the basis of the impact on the water tower. We were successful in defending the appeal. The inspector dismissed the appeal, but also highlighted a concern about the impact on the setting of Tranby Croft, which is the school building, found less than substantial harm to the significance of those heritage assets that wasn't outweighed by the limited public benefits of upgrading that telecoms equipment, which could be done in a more sympathetic manner without harming the listed building. So those appeals were successfully dismissed. Appeal 8B, members will remember this one. This came to the committee and was refused in accordance with officer recommendation. This was for the petrol filling station, drive-through coffee shop and EV charging hub. You'll remember that the applicant put a lot of emphasis on the benefits of the scheme and the benefits will be delivered through the EV charging facility. We felt that we acknowledge that there would have been a benefit there, but the overall harm to the landscape was outweighed that benefit, and refused the application on landscape grounds only. We were successful in defending the appeal. The inspector found harm to the character of the landscape. The inspector did a very good job, if you read through the decision notice, the appeal decision, of weighing those benefits against the harm, but found that the proposal was not in accordance with the development plan, would not be at an appropriate scale, and would cause harm to the character and appearance of the site and the surrounding landscape, to which they attached significant weight. So a really good outcome for quite a high profile case that was very difficult to deal with at the time. Yeah, sure.
Thank you, Chairman. You know how with houses and such, we have a thing that says it may be approved, where it usually wouldn't if it's of exceptionally high quality or outstanding design. If, for example, this was a hydrogen filling petrol station, the first of its kind in the region, would it perhaps have been recommended approval then, based on that fact that it's unique and significantly, innovative?
The landscape harm, I think, would have been the same, but it might have had a different level of benefit that we would have had to weigh in the balance. So when we started out dealing with the application, there was many issues. There were drainage issues, there was issues with the public right of way, there were highway safety concerns, there was HGV refueling on there, and the tight turn off the road between the two roundabouts, which was specifically put in place to reduce road traffic issues in that area, would have introduced tight turning HGVs, which is an issue. So there's lots of negatives to it at first.
It's also duplication, because just further along here, there was another petrol station with a shop attached to it, so it was unnecessary.
Yeah, so at the start there were many negatives. We managed to whittle that down by working with the applicant to get a scheme that was just focused on landscape harm. So we were going into the appeal. We felt that it could have gone either way because it was one issue versus many benefits. But we were successful because it was a highly prominent site. Councillor Robson's absolutely right. Part of their argument was that this was essential to meet safety and welfare needs of motorists. And obviously you'll know from that area that you travel less than a mile down the road. You've got McDonald's, you've got KFC, you've got two petrol filling stations, one on either side of the road. And most petrol filling stations now are implementing at least a couple of EV chargers. So we're getting applications for those all over. So the inspector weighed all that in the balance and found that the harm wasn't outweighed by the benefits, and a really good decision.
Just coming back to what you said there, Nick, I mean, yeah, when knowing this area as well as what I do, because it's like a strange little corner that isn't in my ward, but probably should be. If you're coming down the hill, literally, it's just you can't see any buildings at all. It's just countryside. That would have changed this fundamentally from there. So, and as Councillor Robson just said, and Anthony as well, you've got every type of shop you could think of, from Waitrose to Pound Stretcher to B&M, KFC, McDonald's, blah de blah de blah, and 2 petrol stations. So one of those. Well, and also it would have been. I still can't believe that Highways said it was all right, but there you go. That's Highways for you.
Yeah, sorry, Chairman, this is less exciting. This is for an application to remove a condition, a typical agricultural condition from a 1990s permission, which was granted to convert a farm building. Obviously, personal circumstances had changed, and the appellant went down the route of trying to persuade the inspector to revisit everything again. And the inspector basically said, well, no, we'll just concentrate on the condition that you want to remove. And there was no basis to remove it. There'd been no markets in, there was nothing done from their side. So it was a daily refusal, and the inspector agreed with this.
Um, 8D on page 90. This was a bit of a disappointing one. This was Cassandra House on Dunswell Road in Cottingham. If you know it, it's a residential care home. Obviously an important facility for the community. Without planning permission, they built this little shed you can see with the pale coloured clad one in the yard to incorporate a number of freezers that they use to store food for use in the kitchen. They built that without planning permission. An enforcement complaint came in. The height of the building and the fact that there was no PD rights on the site meant that it needed planning permission. They submitted a retrospective application to retain it, and we received 2 objections from the neighbours about noise disturbance from a fan that you can just about see on the back of the building that had been attached to cool the freezers that they were using in that building. We refused the application, but not on the basis of the building itself, more about the lack of information about noise. And at the time we were operating, at that time we received the application, we were not accepting new information that would require, further reconsultation. So we asked them to go away, basically asked them to go away and resubmit with suitable noise information so we can make a suitable assessment on the neighbours. Rather than do that, they appealed, and the inspector just took the application at face value, saying it's a shed. What they keep in it is irrelevant. They didn't help themselves because they described it as a freezer store. If they described it as a shed, what they might have kept in it was probably irrelevant. It was a bit of a disappointing one. We didn't want to refuse it. We kind of had we couldn't go any other way with it, with the neighbour objections and the lack of information. But ultimately, the right decision, I think. They've got a permission for the building, and if they do add things to it that need separate permission or generate noise issues, then those complaints can go through to our environmental health team to investigate. So the appeal was allowed, but ultimately I think the right outcome for the nursing home. Me again, sorry. 8E, this was a self-build dwelling on land at 62 Elton Road in Brough. We've had many applications on this site in the past. I think I reported a decision to you either earlier this year or last year. This was for a different design, but basically a backland plot, quite close to its boundaries, close to the neighbours, a sprawling dwelling, uncharacteristic of the area. Like I say, it was a second attempt when we'd already refused planning permission and they'd had their appeal dismissed. We refused it for similar reasons, and the appeal was dismissed again. So hopefully it's the end of the story on that one now. I really don't think there's anywhere for the applicant to go. They've tried a traditional dwelling. They've tried a very modern dwelling. They've tried something now that looks like outbuildings, but of a very sprawling nature. We'll wait and see whether they can try again with an alternative design, but the appeal was dismissed for the reasons that we refused planning permission.
Appeal 8F, if anybody knows this site, land off Ivy Park Roads. Unfortunately, more resources were put into this one to defend the application that we refused. So this was a hearing that was sat over a day, effectively going over the same material that was presented in a previous hearing to do with spatial planning, whether this was a site that should have housing on it when it's outside the development limits. And then secondly, it was obviously issues with flood risk. The inspector dismissed it, and hopefully we never get anything again from the site.
So yeah, just on that one, yeah, Mr. Pullen's well known to Gull Council, believe you me, with his constant appeals and coming back, but that piece of land it's just totally unsuitable at all, really is. I mean, you've seen it as well at my Council Cottage, you know. It's hopefully this will be the last the last we hear of it, but I doubt it very much, knowing Mr. Pullen. But thank you.
Can I just ask, it says that there's separate decisions on the costs. Have we heard anything from that? I know this one was only in July, so is it too soon?
Pardon me. Yes, the costs appeal was refused. So we weren't being unreasonable. We were being totally yeah, there was no cost awarded either to ourselves.
Right, councillors, thank you very much again for your attendance today, and safe journey home, and see you again in 4 weeks.